Terrific. Thank you, Jen. This is Nathan Stelter with the Stelter Company. We're excited that you're joining us today for our webinar, You've Got Mail, Timely Email Insights and Trends. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing here at the Stelter Company. An industry leader in the plan giving marketing space for over 55 years. Stelter's committed to providing innovative solutions and education, and we've got three of our own experts today internally, our subject matter experts, Colleen Webster, Katie Parker, and Zach Christensen, to share some real-time insight and trends that can help you motivate and move your email program to the next level. Before I pass it off to these folks, I wanted to really just thank Jen for the great work she does after sitting in on a lot of webinars, and ours are included. She does an amazing job to get this great content out to the industry. So appreciate her doing this for so many years. And we also want to make sure you understand this is our second webinar in our 2017 series. As Jen mentioned, it's being recorded and available on stelter.com in our webinar section. We have a variety of webinars slated each month for the remainder of the year. Some of the topics include plan giving for board members with our senior technical consultant, Lynn Gomer. We have a great presentation by Ann Melvin at Harvard around metrics that motivate. And we'll finish up the year, I know, with a talk that some of you may have heard, but if not, definitely put it on your calendar, questions to start Get Planning Conversations with Greg Sharkey from Nature Conservancy and PPP board member. Invites will be out as each webinar approaches, or obviously you can go to stelter.com/webinars. In regards to today, let me introduce the great folks you're going to be hearing from. First on deck, going left to right, Colleen Webster is Stelter's Digital Solutions Director. Colleen actually oversees all of Stelter's digital team, who currently partner with over 600 nonprofits around the country to deliver the gift planning web pages and email marketing programs. Colleen has over 15 years of experience in information technology, user experience, and IT analysis. Next up is Katie Parker, our Stelter's editorial director. Katie manages our entire editorial staff who write print and digital content for more than 1,500 nonprofits nationwide. Katie came to Stelter after working for over 12 years at Meredith Corporation, where she was most recently the editorial manager for a little magazine you may have heard of, Better Homes and Gardens, in BHD.com. And to round things out, we have Zach Christensen. Zach is actually Stelter's creative director, having been with Stelter for over 15 years, providing design and creative direction for all of Stelter's nonprofit partners. Zach actually ensures that that the creative we provide to all of our nonprofit partners captures the look and feel of each organization's brand and mission. Zach's also the head of Stelter's Innovation Lab, working across the company to support the development of emerging initiatives and innovation to ensure our nonprofit partners are on the leading edge of research, technology, and creative solutions as they relate to plan giving. So without further ado, I will hand it off to Zach to get things started.
Thank you very much, Nathan, and thanks everyone for logging on to the presentation today. Today we're going to be going over some very cool, very interesting, and very important facts around email. We'll kick things off today by discussing who we're sending emails to and the importance of list selection. Then we'll talk about content and design, my two favorites. And then we'll transition into some really interesting stats around mobile before we wrap things up by talking briefly about the results and how to ensure future success. So, okay, Katie, before we get off into the details around deliverability, we've got to know who we're sending it to. Can you walk us through our typical donor profiles?
Absolutely. Katie here, and thank you, Zach, for the intro. We want to send our emails to the right people. And here at Stelter, we have the benefit of working with the Natural Marketing Institute's Healthy Aging database, which divides the portfolio along a number of statistically significant lines, including donors who are divided by gender, education, areas of the country, and of course, by age. And age is one thing that we'll walk you through today, starting with the Millennial Age Group. What you'll see on each of these slides are, at the bottom, the percentage that are comfortable surfing the internet on a regular basis and comfortable using new technologies. So I want you to pay attention to those percentages as we go through. In addition, you'll see some planned giving questions that this age group might have. For millennials, why do I need a will? We know that just 18% of millennials have a will to begin with, so your email marketing communications need to speak to the why of this important document. In addition, related to planned giving, they likely don't know what planned giving is. Maybe they haven't heard that term before or know the real benefits of it. So any email marketing, again, to this age group is going to be a little bit different. You've got to really educate. Take you next to Gen X. And again, look at these high numbers related to surfing the internet, comfortable using new technologies. Even this group needs your email marketing communications. Additionally, we've got how do I create a will from this group. They're, in fact, 42% of them in polls think that a will is very important. So they're ready to do it, they just may not know quite how to do it. Money is a little bit of a concern for this age group. So when it comes to your email messaging, look at their number one concern, which is having enough money to retire. You can really talk about planned giving with this group in terms of not impacting your financial security today or during retirement, but still making a difference. Let's head into boomers. And again, let me point out these percentages down at the bottom. This group also needs your email communications. This also showed a large rise year over year as we've done our study. That 90% that are comfortable, that was just 73% 1 year ago. So imagine where we'll be at 1 year from today. With all these segments, boomers, millennials, Gen X, make sure that you're stopping and establishing the need of your organization. Beyond planned giving, it's what does your organization offer? Why should they support you? What's the need? So even as they go through and they have concerns about family first and how do they get started, knowing your need and how they can help is really going to be the impact that they need. Lastly, in our age group divide, we talk to the matures. This is age 71 and above. And often we get the question of, should I be sending email communications to a group that's older? Well, let me point you to the numbers again. 85% are very comfortable. And again, a big jump here. In 2015, that number was 67%. As we looked at planned giving, this is a group that already has a will. In fact, 68% already have one. So your communication can really help them dig deeper, support you further, and make sure they're using their estate plan to cover all of their goals.
Great stuff, Katie. Thanks for sharing. I think having these personas built out makes creating content and designing things way easier when you can actually visualize who you're sending something to. And in our case, having these research-based snapshots of who our donors are truly helps our creative staff. Now let's switch gears a little bit and discuss the first topic on today's agenda, which is the mailing list. Colleen, I know this topic is right in your wheelhouse, so can you walk us through this part of the presentation and talk to us about the importance of mailing lists and some things that we can do to improve our deliverability rates?
Absolutely. Thanks, Zach. Hi, everyone. This is Colleen. I frequently get asked questions about email list best practices, so I'm very excited to share this information with you all today. As the slide says, know who you are sending to. It's important that the individuals you're including on your mailing list have an affiliation to your organization. Your ability to deliver to the inbox directly relates to the individuals included on your list. Sending to people who know your organization and expect to hear from you will help them engage and open your emails and click through them. Sending to people who may not expect to hear from you, they may typically have that opposite reaction where they're going to delete your email or complain. Those actions of deleting or complaining have direct impact to your ability to send emails and get into the inbox. There's actually a sender score that is out there that it directly relates to those who are opening your email or deleting them, etc. So a quick and easy way to start identifying prospective donors for your list is to review the recency, frequency, and dollars given to your organization. This will help give you an idea of engagement, allows you to start segmenting your list into maybe like hot, warm, and cool leads. And this will help you surface more leads and look at your database. And if you need help looking at your database, here at Stelter, we do offer the PG Finder tool that could help surface up some leads to help get those folks into the correct list. So we've done some work now of qualifying our list, finding the right people. Now we need to give your donors a way to opt into your email program. Getting permission from your individuals on your list is crucial in cultivating a healthy list. allowing individuals to raise their hand and elect to receive your emails really sets the stage for effective email programs. Opting in allows you, the organization, to set expectations for that person, letting them know what type of email messages they can expect to see from you. And obviously, an opt-in model sends a clear message to you about that subscriber or donor saying, hey, I'm interested.
Great advice, Colleen. I've actually got a couple of examples that I want to run through for our listeners here to show them exactly what we're talking about. The first opt-in email on the left is an example that I found from Dollar Shave Club. Very simple email that provides users a quick understanding of what they'll be getting, along with a great image showing what to expect when your shipment comes to your home. Great use of image in this one, and I really like how simple and straightforward the content is. Now on the right-hand side, we have an opt-in from Social Prints. They're a company that will print your Instagram photos directly from your phone. It's actually pretty cool. My wife and I use this all the time. But again, we have a very simple email expressing thanks for joining, a fun image at the bottom with a simple button to verify account setup, or in other words, more emails in the future. But both good examples of what Colleen was just talking about. Now on the flip side of things, I want to show you what an opt-out email might look like. Again, we want to be very simple and straightforward with our messaging. This email from Michaels is a really nice example. It actually gives readers 3 options to choose from. First being with the blue and yellow hearts there, it's send me fewer emails. I like the little note that they put underneath it. I feel like you're smothering me. Number 2, I want to unsubscribe. So this is take me off of your list. I don't want to get anything else from you anymore. And then lastly, keep sending me the same amount of emails. Again, simple messaging, letting the reader know what their options are. The last one I have to show is a simple unsubscribe at the top of this Better Homes and Gardens email that we got from Katie. Again, very direct to the point, and it gets the job done. At the end of the day, our ultimate goal is to have a conversation with our donors. So like Colleen just mentioned, we want to make sure we are sending emails to people that are actually listening to ensure good deliverability rates.
And while we're on this example, I just want to point out that an obvious way to unsubscribe may feel a bit counterintuitive. You want to keep people, right? But however, if the subscriber elects to unsubscribe, while it's one less individual on your list, it's better to have them gracefully bow out instead of ignoring, deleting, or marking your email as spam. So unsubscribe leaves your email program and deliverability in good standing. Also, with unsubscribe, I would need to make sure I mention this. Many of you know about the CAN spam regulations, and when someone unsubscribes from your list, you have to have them removed after so many days. So I believe it's 10 days, but you need to do that in order to avoid any fines or penalties. Okay, so the list keeps evolving. You've qualified your subscribers. You're allowing them to opt in and opt out, and you're noticing maybe your list size is dwindling. This makes you anxious, and you may consider ways to increase your list size. Now, if you take one thing away as a best practice from this webinar today, make sure it's this: never buy a list. No ifs, ands, or buts. Seriously, never buy a list. You don't want to let anyone on your rich, clean list that you've qualified in, they know you, they know your organization. Don't let those strangers in, because that's a surefire way to devastate deliverability and your email program. Another item to note about keeping your list clean is that you should perform regular maintenance to your list. This means cleaning out old email addresses that no longer exist or that may have potentially turned into a dreaded spam trap. Sending to these bad email addresses can undermine your efforts of reaching those that have a good email address. So one way to cleanse your list is to run a list validation or hygiene service. Those typically cost pennies per email address and will remove the bad ones off the bat before you even get started. One final piece of advice to keep your list clean is to remove subscribers who are unengaged. Now, these folks still have a good email address, but they're not opening your emails and they haven't opened them for some time. So their unengagement can actually hurt your deliverability, and email service providers are really monitoring now how people are engaging with the emails that come into their inbox. So you can offer a re-engagement email like Zach showed earlier to attempt to get them to re-engage. But if they don't respond, it's really best to let them go for now and focus on those who are interested in your email program.
Hey, Colleen, let me jump in here for a second. There's a couple of questions coming in. One, how does this impact communication with my donors?
Good question, Zach, and that actually leads me into my next slide. That is, not everyone needs everything. So you have a great list, and you want to get deeper with these donors, and you want to really send them targeted, meaningful messages. So knowing what resonates with different groups is key in keeping your engagement high. Segmentation is a really great way to do that. You can use demographics such as age, gender, income. Those are very common. You can also use segments like location, different schools in a university, or even personal information or life events to help you segment that list. Now, one final thing, it's my news flash. It's very important that you listen to this part as well, because there's a new law going in effect, and it's actually in effect now, but really they're cracking down July 1st. So this law requires that you obtain consent from a recipient before sending them any messages. This is in Canada, so you need to look at that mailing list, and if someone on it has a Canadian physical mailing address, they need to opt in to your email program. You have to give them a way to opt in before you can send a message to them. So please double check your list. Okay, now your list work's done. You now have the best possible list. And let's talk about the importance of single focus messages.
Great. So we all know there's a time and a place for those educational emails with multiple links, multiple ideas. Let's spend a little bit of time when you have one goal in mind, one thing you want that donor to do, one clear objective. Just consider all the emails you got in a day, all the ones you're clearing out right now over your lunch break. As donors, especially move to mobile, which we'll talk about later, the single focus message idea really helps you break through that clutter when their time is of the essence. Zach's got a few examples of this.
I do, Katie. First, on the left, we see an example from the Tiger Athletic Foundation, which is a branch of LSU, specifically with their athletics. Here we have a very clear and recognizable brand, especially to the list of athletic fans that we're sending to. We also have a simple message at the top that establishes the need of the organization. And then below, we've got a big old yellow button there that makes it very obvious for our readers where we want them to click. I think this is a perfect example of what we're talking about when we say single focus message. One paragraph of text, one button, very, very clean and simple. Now, on the flip side of this, we see a more traditional email newsletter on the right. We like to call these air cover emails. I know Nathan likes to consider these like a drip email campaign. Still, very important part of your overall email marketing strategy because it gets out multiple messages to a broader group of supporters. But we typically see lower engagement rates on these types of emails just because there's so many links. As you can see here, we have a main story at the top with a very clear button to tell readers where we want them to go. And as we scroll down the page, we have more options for the readers to click on. Again, this style of email is good for your overall program, but it's also a great idea to sprinkle in those single focus messages, especially when we want more direct communications.
We touched on this, but with those single focus messaging or any email messaging in general, content, what you want the reader to do should be crystal clear. And I always think that advertisers do a nice job of this. And Zach's got some more examples of that in play as well.
Sure do. I'm full of examples today. I actually have a couple examples that show really how this can be done. First, the one on the left is a sample from Fitbit. I really love how simple the message is, and the really big hero image of the actual product gives me a little insight or a little sneak peek to some of the features of the band. Then we see a very clear button at the bottom telling the reader exactly what we want them to do. In this case, pre-order the new Fitbit. Also, from a design perspective, that button really jumps off the page. It's a different color from the band and all the other elements on the page. It truly passes that Squint Test. Lastly, on the right, we have a beautiful email from Bose. In this case, we have a much longer email that has a ton of information about these headphones. The tricky part is all of the buttons actually go to the same landing page, with each section giving a little more information about the product. Again, very clear call to action for the readers.
Zach, if I could jump in real quick, we have a question coming in, and someone's asking, what is the Squint Test you just mentioned?
Sorry, sometimes my designer speak gets in the way. A Squint Test is very, very simple. We actually use this a lot with our emails and even with our printed materials. So if you were to look at that Fitbit or even the Bose ad there, if you squint your eyes to where they're almost closed, where everything kind of blurs out, that pink button just really, really jumps off the page. Same way with the white buttons on the Bose. This is a trick that I know all of our designers use in-house, especially when we're doing these things, to make sure that our calls to action are really jumping off the page. Good question. Thanks for asking that. Okay, now let's transition to the use of mobile phones and tablets and the impact that they're having on email design and build. Looking at some new research done by Litmus, only 3.3% of subscribers will view a single email in more than one environment, and 61% of users are unlikely to return to a mobile site that they've had trouble accessing from their phones. In other words, you got to get it right the first time. Now looking at this chart that's up on the screen right now, you see the dramatic decline in desktop email usage with a little more flat line with webmail. Now you might ask, what's the difference between desktop and webmail? Desktop mail is something that you open on your computer as an app. So think about your Outlook or your Mac mail that came probably pre-installed on your computer. On the flip side of that, webmail is an email client that you open within a web browser. So think about your Gmail accounts, or if somebody still has a Yahoo account, or even maybe the new Outlook 365. Again, these are all web-based applications. But you see the dramatic decline in those since 2011. Now take a look at the huge rise in mobile the past few years, going from less than 10% in 2011 to hovering right around 54% today. So what does this mean for us? Well, according to ReturnPath, 8 in 10 users will access emails exclusively from their mobile devices. And that's why it's so important to think first about the mobile layout of your emails and how you look and how they look on mobile devices. And second, how they look on your desktop applications, Outlook and Mac Mail. So what I'm talking about here, I got another example. I'm full of them today. This is one from Domino's. They do a great job of separating out their mobile and desktop views. As you can see here in the mobile version on the right, it's very clear as to what you're getting. Big hero image of the pizza, clear call to action with a pretty good sized red button, and copy about what you're going to get in this deal of the week. And that's the new iPhone 10. Just to let you guys know, it's 3 feet long. It's just kind of a stretch version so you can see the whole email. Now on the flip side, on the desktop version, you can see the same elements here, but since we have more width, they space things out a little bit more and unstack the elements. Again, it's always important to ensure your emails are checked for layout errors. In one recent study done by Litmus, they found that 43% of consumers that had marked their emails as spam because their emails didn't display properly on their smartphones. So always double check on multiple email clients before you send those emails out. The next one that I want to show and talk briefly about is user experience and taking your donors from that email that we're trying to get in their boxes and we're trying to get them to click on to your website. This is a very, very important first step because this is where a conversation normally will begin with a donor. So going back to the Tiger Athletic Fund example that I showed earlier, here you can see the difference in user experience between a mobile device and a desktop computer. So I've clicked on the email and now I get taken to this web page. As you can see, the forms look very different and there's a different experience for the donor once they arrive on this page. The mobile version on the left, the form is stacked and we have much larger boxes so the user can thumb in a response. Whereas on the right, the desktop has a more traditional form where we're going to use the keyboard to type things in. We do this to ensure mobilely optimized experience for the entire donor journey. We don't want to make it difficult for our donors to get in touch with us because after all, that's what these emails are trying to do.
Hey listeners, always personalize. This is our segment right here to get to really know who you're talking to. And I said, hey listeners, not hey watchers or hey casual viewers. We're really looking to know who we're talking to and talk to them very directly. Let me show you this in play. Here's an example on the left from Spotify. Now, Spotify knows who you are because you use their app. And in this case, they followed up with an artist that you know because you listened to Lady Antebellum in this case. And they're inviting you to a pre-show sale where you can get tickets ahead of time. They're thanking you for listening to them. And that whole letter is from a band member of the group that you've been listening to. Additionally, Spotify recommends music. It's really following your behavior on their app and delivering an email marketing program that matches that and makes you feel like they know who you are. On the right, there's JetBlue and happy anniversary. You've been on their email list for 1 year, and they're inviting you to continue to travel with them. They've got their usual great language, but they know that you've been with them for 1 year, and they're celebrating that. Here's a great example from the annual giving side of things. This is from Charity Water, and the neat thing about this email is that it came 2 years after we gave our donation. So I can see how my money's being used. I mean, great stewardship example right here. So there's my name, there's the amount that I gave, and when I click into this email, I'm taken to a special landing page talking about the program that I'm particularly supporting. Imagery, there's the location of where my money was used, the people that we served, and a whole set of content about what's been happening with all the support that they've received. As you scroll down on this page also, there's my name again, how much I gave, and I have the chance to re-engage and continue to see my donation increase and see my work in play. I just love that. Here's a side-by-side. Same school, but different colleges. We've got the School of Law on the left and the General School on the right. I'm going to point out some differences between these two, even though per Squint Test, you might think they're the same. We've got a different headline at the top. We've got the different logo, particular to School of Law versus the General School. And here's the obvious difference, the main link. In the case of the School of Law, this particular story comes from a law professor, and in the case on the right, this is from a general alum. Even the contact info in this case is totally different, totally personal to my experience and my college. So to this point, we've shown you how to talk to the right people, deliver them the right content, the right layout, and the right medium, and in this case, mostly mobile. Back to Colleen to tell us about the results that matter the most.
Great, thanks, Katie. And why are we doing all this work? We are really doing this because we want to see results. We want to see those metrics. Your email performance is really based on 3 things. 80% is that list. It's super important. And if email's not getting to the inbox, the content and creative, while we've done all this awesome work, just goes to the wayside because they're not opening. So 80% of it's your list, and we need to really focus on that. List quality impacts all email metrics. Go ahead and take a look at your email reports that you receive from us and look at your bounce and unsubscribe numbers. Hard bounces are bad email addresses. They may have existed once, but they no longer do, and we need to get rid of them. Unsubscribe is also kind of speaking to those who have either opted out or were not interested at all. So just take a look at that because we want to make sure that list is rich with people who have that affiliation to your organization. Next, you can take a look at the open rate. The open rate in that report is the percentage of recipients who you sent an email and they actually opened it. So this open rate is also another indicator of list quality. A common question I get asked is what counts as an open? And an open is when an email image is downloaded and it's visible in the preview pane. That does count as an open. It's my opinion the most meaningful metric is that click-through rate. This is an opened email where at least one link has been clicked. This metric demonstrates engagement and begins to give us that insight into what a donor is interested in. This is a metric that can signal how well content and creative are resonating with the reader. Engagement-based metrics have also become a critical element to the success of an email program. A little known fact, and we'll start talking about this more and more, is how mailbox providers are looking at engagement. So they look at data such as messages read, messages forwarded, messages replied to. They're looking at did they mark it as spam or not spam. It's really great when people say, hey, this is not spam. I want to see this. That's a great boost for your program. But they're looking at all those things to demonstrate the engagement, and the email providers are trying to decide, are your emails legitimate and are they really desired by that recipient? So it's my last plug for list management. Make sure you keep qualified, engaged subscribers on your list. And by the way, those mailbox providers are paying attention too.
So why did you even attend this webinar and email? It is because you got an email. We used some of our tricks in sending it to you, in fact. Here's a screen grab up front. You can see the subject line as it appeared in your inbox. This one came to Zach. Zach, do you love email like we do? That's that personal touch, knowing exactly who he is. Behind that, you can see the email as it was delivered. It was single topic. It got right to the point. There's that Squint Test again on that red button to register now. As you scroll down, there's a second option to register now with some bullet points about what you're about to learn. We've also, if you happen to open this on your mobile device, this whole email was mobily optimized. So I hope you go back and check your iPhone. So today we've lifted the curtain on email marketing, showing you some trends, list management, how you can design, how you can really make an impact with great content, great direction, and a great message. Our email addresses are up here. We'd love to hear from you. And it looks like we've also had some questions come in. So now's your chance to speak up and ask.
Yeah, thanks, Kitty. Actually, a question came in from Jennifer towards the beginning of the presentation, and then I think Colleen talked to it a little bit here at the end. She asked, doesn't the bad email just go to the bad email address? How does this affect the rest of your list?
Great question, and I love answering this kind of stuff. So it's super interesting to me. The bad email address. So a couple things can happen. It depends how long it's been bad, but when someone kind of abandons an email address, the email mailbox provider has a couple choices. They can just shut it down and make it unavailable, or they'll actually turn it into a spam trap. And it's something they're using to try to catch people in sending to email addresses that aren't good. And they use that as an indicator of, are you trying to spam or do you know who you're sending to? So it does really affect everyone on the list. So if you are sending to a handful or half your list goes to these bad email addresses, the email providers, they start seeing that those are getting rejected. Reject, reject, reject. Whoa, this is not a good email message. This is not going to targeted audience. They're trying to hit anyone they can. So that will then actually prevent the good ones from getting through because they'll start blocking. So that's really important. Just get rid of those bad email addresses off the bat so that you don't have to contend with getting the rejections.
Good answer, Colleen. I've got another question here that I want to touch on from Elizabeth. She asks, do you have any metrics on how many mobile users turn off images in their email browsers? We don't have any exact metrics. I don't know if you guys want to chime in. Everybody's shaking their head no here. We do know quite a few email clients default turn off the images, and that really drives home the importance of using alt tags. And even with some of the newer email clients, you can have styled alt tags. So really putting good descriptions of what your images are can really make a huge difference in terms of what people are seeing, especially when those images get blocked.
And I would like to just chime in. There is another read rate that we can look at, and that read rate actually counts for all emails viewed regardless of the image rendering. And that is something newer to us that we're looking into to try to be able to capture really what's the read rate. And that way those that do have their images turned off are counted as reading the email.
I'm going to take a question from Margaret. Margaret, you're asking advice for the best time of day or day of the week to send emails. I really want to challenge you all to answer that for yourselves, because what we find is it matters where most of your list is. Are they on the West Coast, the East Coast, that time of day? You may have noticed we're hosting our webinar smack in the middle of the day. That's because we've got the most opportunity to reach people over their lunch break or a time when they don't have as many meetings. So we've set our calendar to match their schedules. And think about your email program the exact same way. So you need to reach people when they're ready to have a conversation with you. A lot of behavior with mobile is to check it first thing in the morning. Maybe you're still in bed. That's the time I get a lot of my emails, and I want to kind of know what's going on in the world. That's my news email time. Then there's the end of the day, kids are in bed. That might be more the social email time, shopping email time. But you can really use testing to help get you there. Testing is when you change one variable. So send the same email 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, the exact same one the next morning, Wednesday at 8 a.m. And look through those metrics that Colleen talked about to see which performed best. You're really going to get some personalized answers that way. But in general, the answer lies in your own hands, and there's no one-size-fits-all for that.
I've got a question from Sandy. My organization has multiple departments that send emails, so my perspective is that we oversend or send too many to donors suggestions. I would recommend, and we recommend this quite frequently, to really sit down and get a global view or a global email calendar or a global marketing calendar for that, in that respect, just to see where everybody's emailing. Then each one of those departments should start to see where there is overlap, because you don't want to be asking and hounding people all the time to give. So I would recommend you sit down with those other departments and just sit down and try to create an overall marketing calendar to see what types of messages you guys are sending out to your donor base. I got another question that came in. Colleen, I think this is in your wheelhouse. Do I need to remove unengaged people from my mailing list? And second to that, if I do, when can I add them back onto my mailing list?
Yeah, another question I hear often is, I want to keep these folks. They may be engaged at some point, so I don't really want to remove them. The thing is what happens is that engagement comes into play. So those email providers are looking at, hey, for example, Zach's not opening these emails from this organization, and they continue to send. Thinking this might be spam, I'm going to place it into a different box, promotions perhaps. So you really want to remove those folks that are not engaging. Now, you can add them back in the list, and I have a few recommendations how to do that. One is obviously maybe reach out to them again and make sure you have the right email address. That could be the case. People switch email addresses more often than you'd think, so make sure you have the one they want to be reached at. And then the next thing is really we recommend giving it about a 2-year hiatus so that you can try to re-engage at some point in time that makes sense, whether it's a life event, an age event, that type of thing.
Take another series of questions here. These are from Christine and Meredith asked something similar. What are some creative ideas for getting people to sign up for email? Yes. Ask yourself, why would you give someone your email address? One word for you, free. That's the go-to, that's the easiest motivated driver for people to give you that key information. So offer something on your website that they can download but that requires their email sign-in. One thing we use at Stelter is our personal estate planning course, and that's a wonderful walkthrough for planned giving to help them organize their documents and get everything arranged before you have a conversation with a planned giving officer or an attorney, as the case may be. But think about other things that you could offer for your personal brand. What would get people excited and feel engaged and feel special? And we can work with you on some different ideas, but really think about that free, think about that hook. Give them something of value because they're giving you something valuable in giving you their email.
I've got another question for Colleen. How does bounce and why does bounce and unsubscribe matter? And then how does this affect my email list? This question's from Jennifer.
Same answer, I guess, a little bit as before, is engagement. So you do not want to continue to send to bad email addresses. There's a couple different categories of bounce. So I believe in our email reports, we show you a soft bounce and a hard bounce. A soft bounce is maybe their inbox is full right now, you just can't get in, but it's not a bad bounce. And we don't recommend removing those folks. But if it's a hard bounce, that email address just does not exist. So stop sending to it. And when you unsubscribe, again, there's the CAN spam laws that regulate that you remove those folks from the list. And we have to do that as a matter of a courtesy to them and to avoid getting those fines or penalties.
It's a question that I get pretty often, and this came in from Matt. Where do you see email 5 years from now? And that's, a generic time frame. But just in general, I think every month that we move forward, we're closer and closer to those personalized examples that you saw during our presentation. Think about that Spotify with the knowledge it has from the app and giving you a message that really resonates with you. And you may or may not know how targeted those are. I think Spotify is sort of the extreme. They definitely know who you are. They definitely know what you're doing. You can hide that a little bit more. Maybe you're on a Target email list and they're showing you specials for the week. Well, they may know that I'm a mom and they're giving me coupons that are related to things that I'm shopping for. And I may or may not realize that they're watching my behavior in my Cartwheel app. But personalization, mobilely optimized, is just going to be the way that people interact with email. The desktop is really when you're at work, and so those of you checking email at work, that's where you're reading it. But in your real life, you're on your mobile device. So more and more interactivity, more and more mobile-friendly usage, and just opportunities as email evolves in knowing behavior. So did you click on something? It might auto-deliver you something additional that expands on that message, or in the case of an advertiser, delivers you a coupon when you purchase something. But email is going to know more and more about you. And as marketers, we can use that to our advantage, and we can use that in a soft way or a hard way. But expect a lot more conversation as email evolves.
Okay, I have a question from Stephen. The question is, the opt-in for Canadians, how does that impact U.S.-based charities with some Canadian donors? And do we need to follow the opt-in also? Yes, we do. So if anyone you are mailing to has that physical address in Canada, you have to get an opt-in.
I'll do one more here. What's a good overall program to implement the skills that we are learning, or does this come down to learning code like HTML, CSS for more impactful emails? Well, it really depends on how detailed you want to get. There's a lot of providers out there, programs. Emma is one of them. MailChimp is one of them. Depending on how detailed you want to get, MailChimp is very, very easy for the novice email builder to get in and use. You can drag and drop a lot of elements. It allows you for personalization. It's pretty easy. I've used it in the past. So it really depends on how detailed you want to get, but those are two that I would recommend if you're just starting out.
Another question here we have about how do we get our project managers to use the new designs you've mentioned rather than the newsletter style that we showed? So that's a great question. We are actually rolling out those new styles here with fourth quarter. And some clients are adopting early in our proof of concept phase, but we are rolling out that new design. It's coming and we're very excited about it. It's incorporating some of the best UX practices and things that we discussed today about getting more targeted, very clear call to action. So coming very soon.
Hey guys, it's Jen. I'm back. We have a couple other questions that have come in. Any of the three of you that might want to answer these? I have some ideas around them. Pam is wondering if you do send an email out asking people to update their contact information for you, is there anything that you can do to reward them or maybe incentivize them to do that in the first place so that you have a more clean database in the end?
Jen, that's a good one. Katie again speaking. Rewarding people for updating their email is really, again, about that relationship with you. The reward is that they're going to have a direct conversation and that's going to go to the right place. So I think keeping your brand relevant and sending them valid, important information is the reward. I'm open to arguments that say otherwise, but it's really in their best interest to be communicating with you and getting their communications in the right place.
One of the things that we also do, Katie, from a print perspective is ask people to update their information when we send them print things. So, are our records up to date? Ensuring, we want to make sure that we're sending you the right information, give them an option, even on the print materials or on the digital materials, to either opt in or opt out like we discussed before.
We have another question from, let's see, I'm trying to read it. Lisa. Lisa's asking, you've talked a lot about the list maintenance and making sure your list is clean, Colleen. And she's wondering, how do you really go about doing that? I think you guys have some recommendations that we give our Stelter nonprofits when you send out the reports after each send. Maybe you can talk through that a little bit.
Sure. So really, I think the first thing is to potentially do a list cleaning. And there are those services out there that can provide that to you. We also can provide it here through Stelter. And again, it's pennies for an email address to kind of run it through the system that checks, does that checking for you to say, is this a good or bad email, and whether to keep it on your list. Other things that you can do is, again, make sure that you are just bouncing those email addresses, looking if they're legitimate. Do they have all the right components, like colleen.webster@gmail.com per se. So that's a really easy way to look through your list and figure out if you have those clean addresses. You need to remove those bounces that we recommend, remove the unsubscribe, just really care about your list, put some care into it and look at it. If you know if your list has come from recent or very past purchases of email addresses, if there's any sort of like indicator in your database that you know where this email address came from, that's another way to look at it and say, you know what, this one came from a form we had on our site because it has this information or not. So knowing where the email address came from is another great way to know whether it belongs on your list. I had one more thought, and it's starting to slip my mind. Oh, I just remembered. Okay, so if the email address also has a physical address associated in your database, that's another it's another plus that is probably more legitimate than an email address that lives alone in your database. So those are just some things you can look at to help start weeding through those lists and pulling in the right addresses.
And Colleen, do you have excuse me, do you have any thoughts around, we have Alex was asking, you know, if they're using a certain email tool and people are unsubscribing, that tool is taking them out, will not send to them again. Do you have suggestions then for their own internal database? Do they need to do any sort of flagging of that email address in their internal database that that person is unsubscribed, or how would you suggest that they manage that?
It's a little tricky since they don't have quite the whole context, but if someone unsubscribes, say the unsubscribe says, I don't want anything from this organization, it does need to come out of all of it. We try to just put on our personal marketing materials that they're unsubscribing from that particular newsletter or that particular piece of communication. So the more targeted the unsubscribe can be, the better. But if it is a blanket unsubscribe from that IP address, really, then you do have to remove it from your entire database.
We have Elizabeth wondering, I think Katie talked to this a little bit, about personalizing, and when is it appropriate to start personalizing? If you do it too soon with names and say you know their birthday, you know that they like dogs or whatever, does that get a little creepy? How soon is too soon? Do you guys have suggestions on that?
You kind of covered the gamut on creepiness there. I wouldn't go putting in people's birthdays or anything like that. But there's a ton of different ways that you can personalize that aren't, you know, flat out, I know all of this information about you. There's subtle ways of doing it, whether it be regionality, whether it be gender, the school that you might be affiliated with. You know, some of those things, especially from a university standpoint, might be appreciated by the sender. You know, I graduated from the College of Design at Iowa State. I prefer getting messages about the colleges of design rather than the whole entire university. So again, really it depends on what type of information that you have in your mailing list. We can certainly take a look and help you kind of make some of those decisions if you would like. But I'm a firm believer of personalization at the very, very get-go. As soon as you get any information about a person, let's try to present a relevant information or a relevant email that really ties to them.
Okay. And Kayla was wondering, Colleen talked about the number one thing that you should learn today is do not purchase email lists. Do not do it. So Kayla was wondering, So how do I get them then? What's a good way to do it organically? He's asking Facebook ads. Any thoughts around that, Colleen or Katie or Zach?
Katie's going to steal that answer first. I love your question, Caleb, and I love where your head's at. Yes, Facebook, SEO, where is your brand already? Where are your touch points with a donor? Or where are the touch points if you have a partner annual program? Who are they talking to? Do you have them as an opportunity to speak with as well? And again, any way that they can opt in and feel like they're having a relationship is a good place to talk to them. So drive them to you, speak to them where they are, and incentivize them with something free or a conversation so they can feel like signing up with you is a great benefit to them.
So Caleb also wants to know, you guys have given some great tips today, everything from design to list cleansing. How can he go about doing this in the most effective way? Does he need to sign up for a web class at his local college, or do you guys have ideas on that? I know we offer a service for our nonprofits, so we take care of that for them. Colleen and Zach, do you have any thoughts around that? Any programs that you've seen that have been successful for organizations?
Well, there's a bunch of different things you can do. Like I said before, there's a couple of email service providers out there, Emma and MailChimp, that make it pretty easy for the novice user. I would recommend, if you're just getting into and you want to learn, pick up some design skills, there's a site called Skillshare.com or lynda.com. They have tutorials on the various ways to build emails, whether it be HTML and CSS or just HTML. But those are two really good resources for beginners to really jump in and learn how to build emails the right way.
Cool. Colleen, Caroline is wondering, you talked about click-through rate as being your most important measurement that someone was engaged and interested in your email, that they not just opened it, but they clicked through it. She's wondering, are unsubscribes also counted in the click-through? Because they did click on something, they clicked unsubscribe. So is that counted in the click-through rate?
Yes, it is counted in the click-through rate, and I will speak to the Stelter reporting we do. I would have to double check. I think we try to remove the unsubscribe so you can see a click-through rate of content, but that is definitely counted in the typical click-through rate. And if we see a high unsubscribe, sometimes it's like we'll see that in a newsletter format, that main feature gets a lot of clicks, and then second thing that gets a lot of clicks is unsubscribe. So it's definitely counted, and we're looking at that.
And Colleen, another one for you. Sorry to pick on you, but you're talking about the new Canada breaking news alerts and how Canada has passed a law that you have to have your email subscribers opt in before you can send to them. And Janine is wondering how they know if their email addresses are from someone that lives in Canada. Thoughts about that?
The first is obviously if you have the physical mailing address, that's the key way to know. Otherwise, it's a little bit more difficult. And I don't know that I have a good answer. You've asked a very good question. I need to definitely do some more research to give some guidance on how we're going to figure that out when you don't have that physical address.
Absolutely. It's something brand new that we're just tackling, actually. So we'll have some more information, actually, that we're going to send out to our nonprofit partners in the next couple of weeks about that new regulation. So look for that. One last question, and maybe any of you can jump in. Marion wants to know your thoughts around when is it better to use a print piece to reach your donors versus an email piece? Do those work hand in hand, or is one better than the other?
I'll speak to that. I don't like the word instead. It's not print instead of email. It's print with email. So you're talking to your potential donor in all the areas that they get communication, in all the ways they're used to talking to you. And that's social media also. This obviously focus was email marketing, which is an inexpensive way to reach a lot of people in a timely manner. You can test against it. There's so many things you can do with email. So it's a great leveraging system. but you should also be speaking to them where they are. Do you have a donor who loves getting a print piece and responds to that and saves it? That can work hand in hand with your email marketing program. And again, think of all the avenues they're used to having a conversation. Are they someone you need to meet in person? Do you have events that way? Email is just one slice of that pie.
I think that's great, Katie. And the only thing that I would add to that is, when we're talking about the versus, print versus, if you've got a timely event, you need immediate response to something. I think about some of the surveys that we've done recently. Typically speaking, when you drop a planned giving marketing mailing piece, you're looking at anywhere from 10 to sometimes 20, 25 days before that's going to land in somebody's inbox or in somebody's mailbox at home. Whereas in email, we typically see response rates around 48 hours is, max response that we're going to get. So again, looking at the, how quickly you need response might be one of the reasons why you might do one over the other.
Great, thanks so much, Zach and Katie and Colleen. We are out of time, so I just want to thank you guys again for spending the last hour with I think we had over 300 nonprofit partners signed in today. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your expertise with them as well. If we didn't get to your question today, our hosts have graciously offered to speak with you one-on-one. You can email them. Their email addresses are on the screen now. So feel free, if there's something that's just really burning that you want to know an answer to, go ahead and hit up Colleen, Katie, or Zach, and they will get back to you as soon as they can. The most popular question I get throughout the webinar is, can I get the slides? Can I watch it again? And the answer is absolutely. We recorded the session, so barring any technical difficulties, we will have the recording for you along with the presentation slides available. We'll be putting them on Stelter.com in the next couple days. So you can check that out at Stelter.com/webinars. Or you can just wait for the email that you'll get. You'll get an email from me when those are ready for you to access. So that's Stelter.com/webinars. Thanks again for spending the last hour with us. Hope you found the time enjoyable, and be sure to sign up for our next webinar in July on getting your board on board with Plans Giving, hosted by Lynn Gomer. Go to Stelter.com to register for that. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.